Hey there, welcome to Pop Culture Cupid.
I'm Alison, love coach, here to help you single people find your way back to love.
And I'm Michal, I'm a single life coach. I help singles embrace themselves and their singleness, as well as develop a healthy self relationship.
In this podcast, we will look at how pop culture impacts romance, dating, and your love life.
And each week we'll shoot another arrow through another pop culture delusion.
I thought we weren't going to do the whole cheesy thing.
And then burst into smithereens.
Oh my god, dude, that's so cringe!
Sorry, it's in the intro now.
If you make it through the chaos and you enjoy what you hear, please leave a comment, like, subscribe, and go to all the social media.
At Pop Culture Cupid on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Enjoy!
Should we go?
Yeah, let's go.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. And how about you?
I'm good. Happy it's the weekend.
It is, although it's so scary how fast time is flying. Every single week seems to be going by faster than the previous one.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if it's just the year that goes by faster, or if we are getting older and just time feels different.
I think so. I think we're just more, when you're more aware of something, it's like it just flashes by.
Yeah, exactly. We were talking about like living in the moment and being aware of how amazing the current moment is. It's not that easy.
It's not what? Sorry?
It's not that easy living in the moment.
It is not. It's very hard to live in the moment, especially with so much going on and all the screens and technology and social medias, where you're always super hyper aware of like what everyone else is doing and where everyone else is going and how successful and beautiful and cool everyone else is, and you're sort of too focused on not only trying to live up to that but also share it, and you're sort of lost in sharing stuff on Instagram or behind a lens rather than with your eyes and senses. So sorry, philosophical much.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is, not the problem, but the interesting thing about what we do is that we become very aware, and we're just like, it's not as easy just living through life not caring. Like, we become aware of like the flaws and our own flaws and how we perceive things, and it's like everything is an opportunity for self-growth and being introspective, and it's hard.
It is. And while I do believe that you should constantly be reflecting on yourself and your journey and things you're going through, sometimes you also need to learn how to just let go and how to do things just because you want to, and without analyzing every tiny small thing that happens. And I think that's also true in life, with yourself, and most importantly in relationships, because I feel like a lot of times when you super over analyze things that go on in relationships, or stupid petty arguments, then that just causes more arguments and more chaos, and it never ends.
Yeah, it's never ending. Anything special happening for you in your personal life?
In my personal life, everything's pretty good, pretty normal. But in my professional life, I have actually just completed writing an ebook, so that's really exciting.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
In English?
In English, yes.
Cool.
And it's about creating connections to overcome loneliness.
Oh, amazing. I'd love to read it.
Yeah.
You must send
I'll
it
send it
over.
out to you. Yeah, I will.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really good. Well done. Well done.
Thank you. I'm super excited about that. So I feel like very proud of myself for that achievement. So
Yeah,
how about you?
Professional. This is going to sound really dishonest, but it is very honest. Some of my clients have been doing so well and like progressing so much, and that feels really good about being in touch with their emotions. It feels amazing, so I'm really happy about that. And personal life, nothing's been going on too much, but that's fine, because I tend to live a hectic life, and I enjoy it when it calms down. So it's calm right now. It's calm.
Yeah. You know what? If there's one thing that single life taught me, is this thrive on the peace and tranquility and the air quotes boring life where it's just everything's calm and relaxed and you're not thriving on drama like you used to in your teens and in your 20s, and everything's just everything's so much lighter and better, and you're more efficient that way, and you have so much more time and energy to focus on better things. So
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's something like, no matter how chaotic life is, you should always strive to do things calmly and stress free as much as you can, because everything is easier said than done. So
amen. Let's get into it. Let's talk about Love is Blind. Not Love is Blind.
Oh, that's next week.
That's next week. Tinder Swindler.
The Tinder Swindler. Yeah. Well, let me read the premise for you, for those of you who have no idea what it is. And if you don't know what it is, I suggest you go to Netflix, watch it, then come back and discuss it with us. So, posing as the wealthy, jet-setting son of Russian-Israeli diamond mogul Lev Levayev, Simon Chayut wooed women online under the alias of Simon Levayev, then conned them out of millions of dollars. Now, some of the victims plan for payback. Ooh, very dramatic.
Dun, dun, dun. It's what we like. It's the...
If only it weren't true, because it's just sad. It's so sad, this story. But I'd like to begin as the Israeli in the group here. Well, sort of Israeli, but to preface this by saying that not all is, well, most of Israeli men are not like that. I don't think that's a good representative of the Israeli culture at all. So just getting that out there.
Yeah, and you're right to do so. But I mean, as a non-Israeli, I would say that that was made really clear. Like, I wouldn't worry about the reputation of your men.
Yeah, well.
Because, and also at the end, they do say like that the women go on these interviews with Israeli men, you know, on the Israeli TV, and they say we're not all like that. So, I mean, I wouldn't worry about that. But you're right to say it. I think it's just, you know, it just so happens that this is an Israeli man. It's not you know, it could have been a French guy, German guy, English guy, American guy, whatever. It just so happens that he was Israeli.
Yeah, and they have them all over the place. I think I was also reading up a bit about the story, and one of the reasons why they haven't stopped him here or anywhere else is because the police are so overwhelmed with other more serious cases that it's just not possible. So
yeah, but isn't that just a bit of an excuse of saying, of, you know, oh, it was too overwhelmed? Like, guys, like, this is horrible what's going on. You know, we'll talk about how, you know, how to avoid and things like that, and just, but this guy took advantage of women and people. Like, this is women that came up, but how do we know that he hasn't been taking advantage of men and selling them, you know, fake products? And now he's even selling like business tips online. He's not even linked to the Levayev family. So it's just,
yeah, the Israeli Andrew Tate, basically. Yeah, and that's what's crazy to me, by the way. Speaking of the Levayev family, because they did speak about this a few times on the film, that they were saying they looked up the Levayev family, they read about who they are and their wealth, but, and this is an important lesson to learn, I think, from it, and the most important takeaway is look up the person you're trying to date, because if you look up Lev Levayev's sons, all their names are online, and Lev Levayev does not have a son named Simon. And so I'm thinking, like, don't only look at what they show, what they choose to portray on Instagram or Facebook, because we all know that's not 100% real, and like do a bit more digging, especially in these day and age, in this day and age where we know that so sadly so much conning and hacking and things like these are going on. Like I get messages every week on my phone, you need to pay tax on this, and it's a fake message from someone trying to con money out of me. So
yeah, I agree. And I didn't tell you this because I knew we were having this podcast, but I dated. I went on like 2 dates with a who was claiming to be the son of this huge like tech personality in France. And I was like, this doesn't sit right with me. And I looked him up online and he's nowhere to be found.
mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, so he wasn't asking for money, but really early on I was like, I felt that this guy was just trying to pretend to be somebody he wasn't, just to seem interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's, you know, I felt that that's what he was doing. But thinking about it now, I'm like, maybe it could have led to some sort of con situation, and now it feels uncomfortable. But this was something like 3 or 4 years ago. But yeah, just be careful. If people are pretending to, if people are saying that they have these, you know, big communities and big lifestyles, it's so easy to check. And then again, if you're talking to somebody who says, I'm really private, and I'm not online, I'm a secret agent or whatever, then that's also a bit of a red flag. Of everybody has a tiny trace online. And if this person is saying that he's working for the Secret Service, it's probably a lie, because I'm pretty sure that they prevent you from saying it.
Yeah, that's true. You're not allowed to say any of that for any Secret Service from any country. And you know what? In general, when someone has so many secrets, or in his case, he has so many enemies and he has so many like crazy things going on, run the other way. Why in the world would you want to get involved with someone like that to begin with? Like, I would think to myself, oh my God, I do not want his enemies to come to me. This sounds too much like an action movie that I want no part in, because I'm sorry, but if someone has secrets, eventually you're going to get sucked into them. Eventually they're going to consume you, and eventually they'll be an inseparable part of you and your secrets as well. So yeah, especially if they're claiming to be such a like a famous person's son or relative, all you have to do is look up their name. And I'm sorry if it sounds a bit stalkery, but what are you going to do? This is the world we live in at the moment, and we have to be careful. We have to be cautious who we go out with, especially when, you know, they come in with full force and this huge gust of wind trying to sort of like sweep us off our feet. And if there's one thing I've learned, especially in my finally new healthy relationship, is that never leads to real love. In fact, if they try to sweep you off your feet like they do in Hollywood movies right in the beginning, again, run the other way, because real healthy love is chillaxed. It starts slow, it's mellow, there's no fireworks or big explosions of loves and butterflies. That's just in movies. It comes slowly.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks for saying it, because I can't remember the names of the two main women, but the first one that comes on screen, kind of, you know, the Norwegian one. Pardon?
Cecilia or something like that? Could it be?
Cecile, maybe. Anyway,
yeah.
You can tell that she lives for the whole romantic, wants to meet Prince Charming, and Simon Leviath kind of knew that. I think he targets the women who haven't detached themselves from the online, like the fantasy, the fairy tale fantasy, and he targets them because that's what he's feeding into. And because she got so overwhelmed with this and is only waiting for this, she's only waiting for this, and the other woman was also waiting for this. They just couldn't think clearly, and they seem to be intelligent women, both of them, and the current girlfriend, like the one living in Amsterdam. They all seemed to be really, really intelligent, educated women, and their fatal flaw was that they believe so much in the fairy tale romantic fantasy that just completely blocks them from seeing reality.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't think they're to blame with this. I think well, I'm not a huge believer in seeking blame, but I think the cause of this is sort of the the where we grow up. And I even wrote down the quote. She said, looking for that all-consuming love, which is basically, the Disney fairy tale, finding Prince Charming who will come save you. And I think we grew up with this notion of a happily ever after, of perfect love, of this rich, beautiful, man who will come and save us from our lives and sweep us off our feet. And so of course we're going to look for that. Of course we're going to want that. Of course there's always going to be a romantic in us who's going to believe maybe it is true. Maybe there is something in it. Maybe I'm one of those few lucky ones who will find, someone like this, someone perfect. And I feel like that a lot of times, along with men like Simon, who just come along and manipulate and gaslight and do all these textbook tricks to try and get women to fall into his net. And we can say from today to tomorrow to next week to next year, oh, if I was in this situation, I would have never done this, that, and the other. But we don't know. Until push comes to shove, we have no idea what we would have done in that situation, because a charming person can manipulate almost anyone. And yeah, it helps to be aware and to be cautious, but we never know.
Well, yes, I would agree, but I would play devil's advocate in the, if we were in the situation where the person that we love and we trust asks us for money, then we don't know what we would be doing at this stage, because we are in love and we trust them and etc. But the thing is, it was the red flags were at the beginning that they if they didn't miss the red flags at the beginning, if they missed the red flags at the beginning, they were never gonna not give money when push came to shove, because it's this guy, these guys who earn a stupid amount of money, they don't mix in the same circles that the people who don't do. Otherwise we'd be hearing about such and such celebrity going at this place and this Fortune 500 going at this place. The Leviathan family seems to be an extremely wealthy family. I would be gobsmacked if they would hang out on Tinder or these things. And actually, Tinder has this tier of, I only found this out recently, but Tinder has this tier that these high earners pay a lot of money for, to be private on Tinder and only match with each other of these people in this type of society. So I'm not saying that this is good or bad. I'm saying that usually people, will spend money in being different places rather than just London.
Yeah, and I agree. There were a lot of red flags, and I think there's a lot of things that were just overlooked. I will say though that maybe but that specifically, I don't think I wouldn't have even thought. Well, I would have thought it's pretty weird that such a famous or rich person is on Tinder, but I never would have thought, oh, they probably have a feature on Tinder, so why isn't he on that? I don't know if that's like a thought that every average Joe would really think about. I do think though that if already you're meeting up with a person, you didn't think about the fact that they wouldn't be on Tinder to begin with if they were who they say they were. But why in the world get on a private jet with someone you don't know? I'm sorry. But if he really were the person he says he is, and if he was a sane person, a normal person, he never would have asked you to get on his private jet on a first date. No normal person does that. And you know what? Even if so, okay, fine. No, I'm sorry. No, you don't get on a private jet with someone you don't know. and you've only met in the last hour. It's like mind-boggling to me. Like, how in the world? Like, why in the world?
Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. It just, we don't want to, it's not a victim blaming, in the sense, if well, I'm not going to do any comparisons, but it's not victim blaming, like, you should not have done that. It's, now I hope that they have both learned, well, all of these women involved, but they've learned of just, this is not how life happens.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Who gets in a private jet? Even the friends of Cecile said, like, this doesn't feel good, like, it's a private jet, and she just goes YOLO. Fine,
Yeah.
you only live once, but you don't get in the private jet of somebody who you don't know. I would, not bypass, but if you don't immediately check who this person is online, then I'm not too sure how to feel about that. Maybe give it a couple of dates. Like, I gave it a couple of dates before checking, because I wanted to get to know the person beforehand. Because basically what I do is, what my process is, what was, when I was meeting somebody online, I would check out their Instagram and or Facebook and LinkedIn, because I find that everybody has a LinkedIn profile. And if you're a fake account, you don't bother with a LinkedIn profile. And so usually I'd think, okay, so if these people have a good presence online and are on LinkedIn, it feels okay. Yeah, I just look it up and that's fine. So I would not have had any worries about that. What would have worried me, I would not have gotten on a private jet with the guy. And yes, what you're saying about the enemies, what I'm worried about is that some of these women find that attractive. They like the drama. And that is just astonishingly scary to me. And I think that Simon Levive did his homework of just, they like the drama. They want to be living a Hollywood film. They want the James Bond thing of being a Bond girl and having their man being ran chased by criminals and dangerous, because it's exciting, because that's what love is in the films.
Yeah, and I do want to stress on that point where this isn't victim blaming in any way. I feel like it is important, though, to look at this and understand what we can learn from it and how we can prevent these things from happening again and again. We have to look at it and say, okay, what can I learn from this and how can I do better and how can I prevent this from happening to me? And I think even one of the women said, I thought it would be stupid, or I would be stupid to say no. And I'm like, I feel like getting on that private jet is a bit not the smartest idea. And I'm sorry to say it, but it's true. And that YOLO mentality is such it makes us do stupid things, and it makes us like let go of all reason. While I do understand that you want to live life, you want to have that, Prince Charming or knight in shining armor who comes and sweeps you off your feet and whisks you away to some exotic location, you also need to hold on to reason and take a moment to think. And I think this is the second woman over there. She sent him her passport, a picture of her passport, and she let him buy her plane ticket to come see him. And so it's like on the kind of same equivalent of like that's a red flag. It's not normal not to someone just sends you a plane ticket without knowing you, and also sending your passport details to someone you don't know is also such a crazy thing to me. And I understand like the sort of the thrill of it is, oh my god, I met someone cool who who wants to take me away, and believe me, I would love it as much as the next girl, but I feel like you have to be so cautious with these things.
I agree. And something I was kind of thinking to myself, if I was going to have a conversation with Cecile or the other women, I would imagine that they would respond something along the lines of, yes, but what if that got him angry or upset or on the defensive and things like that? I would reply to that, then you don't want to be with someone who doesn't trust your doesn't respect your boundaries, because either what he's doing is legit and why not, but if he's not respecting your boundaries now, what is it going to be down the line? You don't want to be with someone like that. Or it's a red flag. Like, what has he got to hide? Of just, you want to make sure that you're doing fine and everything. What has he got to hide? But I mean, be with someone who respects your boundaries. I can understand, objectively, I can understand the whole, it's exciting getting on a private jet and going to the other side of Europe and having fun. Like, I get it. It's exciting. I get it. But that can still happen with boundaries being respected.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think he's a professional. He knows what he's doing. And this is not his first rodeo. He's done a lot of different cons beforehand, and he's a very good manipulator, and he's created this narrative so meticulously that it is very hard to see some of the red flags, because he did put up a lot of fronts to show that he is who he says he is, and there's no reason to be suspicious. But even with the best actors and the best manipulators, there's always ways to tell, especially when they're trying to rush you into this. They're trying to get you to consume yourself in this all at once. And in general, if you're looking for real love, again, doesn't begin that way. And like you said, if he's completely freaking out, or if he's saying, well, then you're not interesting to me, I'll go away, then fine, go away. I don't want you to be a part of my life if I'm not interesting enough to you, because I can't get on a private jet with you on a first date. And I say this a lot. This is why I believe that we first need to work on ourselves so much, because once we have a strong self, we don't care whether someone is going to reject us or say no or run away, because that's their problem. There's always going to be another person who is right for you. And you're strong enough on your own that you don't need to, just do something because someone is asking you to do it, or you feel like it's the romantic thing, or you feel like it's cool, or you feel like you're going to miss out if you don't do it. And especially if someone's reacting in such a way, believe them when they freak out on you, because that's who they are. I feel like that's when a person shows their real true self. And he's done that throughout the whole film. He's suddenly showing his little freakouts and his little moments of gaslighting and blaming and getting upset at you for being this way and that way. And that's a big tell when someone's such a hothead. And you don't want to be with someone who is just going to react unpredictably every time.
I wholeheartedly agree with what you are saying about finding yourself, because if you rush to get into a relationship, then that is how you will get into a bad relationship. And if you don't have a huge sense of self-worth, I mean, I feel it's okay to just want to be in a relationship rather than being single. But that doesn't mean that you are dispensed from knowing what it's like to be single and seeing that that it's very livable and doable, and that you survive. And as soon as you kind of figure out, actually, being single isn't that bad, so I'm going to prefer being single rather than being in a bad relationship, I feel that's how you avoid the bad relationships, rather than rushing into something that's not good for you.
Yeah. And I mean, being single isn't only survivable. If you do it right, then it can be incredible, and you can create a fulfilling life for yourself. And I found that once I had a healthy relationship with myself, I was at a better vantage point to start a healthier relationship with someone else. And also, when I was dating, I wasn't gonna just settle for anyone I can find. I wasn't gonna allow myself to get whisked away by anyone,
Yeah.
because I knew that I was good on my own. I had enough of a life without having to do any of that. I mean, like, he even asked her to move in with him after a month, and everything was happening so fast that, to me, like, whoa, you're gonna get whiplash. Like, take a moment and think about what you're doing. Like any normal person, if you were actually dating a level of vibe son, this person who should be, under very careful security, wouldn't just move in with anyone. He wouldn't just, well, in general, any sane person wouldn't just want to move in with you right away. And I feel like the whole thing was just, you need to be careful and not jump. And also, when you jump in too fast, too quickly, then you sort of tend to drown also just as quickly. Like, you're way too over invested, and then once you're too over invested too quickly, it's much harder to get out.
Yes, exactly. And to put a slight asterisk or caveat or whatever on that, is that it can happen. It doesn't mean that it's impossible, but don't make that your objective. And the only way that this can be possible in a healthy way is by having a good sense of self-worth. It's not looking for it. It's not being overly active about it. It's just, I'm feeling like this, and it can just go this way, and you can feel good about it. And you like your boundaries have been met, like you've been heard. But I mean, the enemies thing, it's so much. It is so much.
Yeah, I agree. The enemies thing was the one thing that I don't understand. And like, as humans, we have the self-preservation of like the fight and flight mode, where we just run away from danger as soon as we face it. And why would you want to be with someone who has enemies, who is constantly on the move, who constantly has to be careful and look over their shoulder? I would feel very paranoid for myself, for my family. And I feel like it's just something that you have to be careful with. You don't want to be in a relationship just for the sake of being in a relationship. If someone like that is having to constantly, put up with enemies and people who are extorting him, and it's crazy.
I agree, and at the risk of being controversial,
because we love being controversial.
Yes. If any part of you feels, well, this is slightly exciting, but I don't want anything boring, or YOLO and things like that, then you go from just being a victim and just being naive to being, I want to say, stupid. I mean, I'm sorry. It's just, if any part of you feels like, oh, this is a bit exciting, exhilarating, the rush, things like that, then of course these dramatically bad things are going to happen to you as well. One doesn't happen without the other. Of course, if it happens to him, it happens to you, and that's as you said, the whiplash. It's just what's going to happen. It's good when it happens in the movies, but actually think about it. Actually, just think about James Bond. I mean, really, or Christian Grey, or Simon Leviathan, or whatever. Just really see what that means. You don't get to see them at all. Christian Grey doesn't respect her boundaries ever. It's constantly fighting. It is being thrown around. Imagine being thrown around a train. Just imagine.
Fun.
Yes, you want exciting things, and you can, have an exciting life. You can even ask your boyfriend, can we pretend to be James Bond and a Bond girl and just get into that's possible. But you don't want that to be your everyday life. And if you do want that to be your everyday life, then this is the result of that.
Yeah. No, I don't think this is exciting. Sorry, you were going to say something?
No.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't think there's anything exciting about enemies, or about someone who's just willing to go everywhere at a minute's notice, and oh, I'm going from here, no, I'm already there, no, I'm, it's just like way too much. It's way too much, and that's not a way to build a normal healthy relationship. And again, we were talking about it in the beginning, the drama-free life. I think it's part of growing up, and it's part of maturing and getting out of that 20s teens mindset of thriving on drama. And I remember in my teens, when I was in a relationship, I was like, a part of me wanted the argument, a part of me was like, I want something action, like some action to happen, I want something exciting, I'm getting bored. And I feel like that's something that we have to outgrow, and it's something that I think naturally happens when we're in our 30s, obviously. But
We've
but
grown
and if
tired.
it doesn't, yeah, exactly. And even if it doesn't, we have to be conscious of that, and learn how to pay attention to these things, because at the end of the day, you're just going to be jaded. You're going to start a relationship with a lot of gaslighting and games and manipulations, and it's always going to be arguments and fights, and just like, it's going to be exhausting. And especially with someone who hasn't grown up yet and is always seeking out excitement and adventures, and which is a great thing, but not when it's constantly nonstop. When he's constantly seeking stimulations, that kind of person's going to cheat on you. That person's going to never be stable in your relationship. That person not necessarily going to show up when you need them. And I feel like that excitement is not going to get you under the chuppah. And excitement is not going to get you with wedding bells and a beautiful white dress, because that's not what real love and healthy relationships are, which is something that I'm discovering now, after taking the time to be on my own, after taking the time to have a healthy relationship with myself, and not settling for just anyone, and bringing that drama-free mentality with me into my relationship, and learning how to thrive on the, again, air quotes, boring life, because it is so much better. And like you said, role playing is great, or finding ways to add spice and excitement into your life is possible without having to do crazy, stupid things.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Obviously, I completely agree. And yeah, there are some people that would find those situations genuinely exciting, even the whole, being ripped off of £100,000 or whatever it was. I mean, I'm just now thinking this guy was probably thinking, okay, how easily is she going to do this? And then will she do this? And just, placing his bets, and just giving it a chance and a go, and just seeing how it goes. It's terrible. It's terrible. And we could go on for hours and hours. But yeah, basically it's, you want to, what is real life, and where do you see, where do you see yourself in 10 years in your relationship? If you see yourself jumping off of a train with James Bond being run out by all his enemies, and, running for your life constantly, then yeah, that's probably a good behavior to have. But if you see yourself settled with kids and things like that, then that, the rest of it is just not going to happen. And as you said at the beginning, well, a couple of minutes ago, if people show you who they are, and so by firstly becoming a bit, stressful and stressed out, that's a negative quality. Like overbearingly stressed out, that's the negative one. But it started off by not showing up when he said he was going to show up. He did this a couple of times. Is you want to be with somebody who shows up for you, and who doesn't put their stress on you, and who doesn't send you pictures out of the blue of him being attacked. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
he wouldn't do that.
I was thinking about my own boyfriend, and thinking, so he used to be a police officer, and so he would have ended up in dangerous situations. And I talked to him about it, and he said, if I were in this type of situation, I would not just send you a picture of my colleague bleeding. I would call you and saying, brace yourself, something has happened, and tell me about it, and maybe send me a picture afterwards. he would not want me to wake up with like bloody pictures of him and his bodyguard or colleague or whatever. And so if somebody just, for the shock factor, I mean, would you
Yeah.
do that? Would you send just, you break your ankle and it's bloody and everything, would you just send out a picture to your mum and be like,
Oh God, no.
exactly, you just say, okay, something's
Oh
happened,
God.
I'm fine now, and let's talk about it, not just the shock factor. I mean, that's so toxic.
Yeah, that's not normal behavior. That's manipulation 101. When you exactly when you want to have that shock effect of like of getting someone to freak out. He wants her to be unbalanced. He wants her to get shocked from this so she's not thinking clearly. Because first of all, no normal person's gonna just send you out of the blue a picture like that. And then he wrote just the word blood. Who does that? I mean, like, I think maybe in a way he wanted her to freak out, because again, you don't make the best of decisions when you're all freaked out and you're worried, and he wanted to have her off balance like that. And in general, if you find someone sending you such pictures, then run the other way again, because a normal person won't do that, and you don't want to get involved, and you don't know when it will be your turn to be in that picture, God forbid. Sad to say, but that's a reality. If you're dating someone who someone in their life ends up being bloody like that, then you're going to be somewhere next in line to that. And it just, you just don't want to get involved with such people. And you have to be super hyper aware of yourself and aware of the situation, and not allow yourself to get shocked like that, or which is hard. It's hard to do that, which again is why it's so important to work on yourself first.
I was trying to find a comparison and now I'm gonna find it. I found it. It would be like crossing the streets on a motorway without looking both sides. Like what these women did were as reckless as that. So if they get hit by a car, yes, the car is the one, if they get hit by a car who is looking to kill someone, then I mean that's just horrible worst case scenario. And and it's the car's fault, and that's the person to blame is the driver 100% of the time.
Yeah.
But you do not cross the street on the motorway without looking both sides. Like you don't put yourself in these horrible, really uncomfortable situations. And to make another uncomfortable comparison, but it would be like a woman dressing very provocatively in an extremely dangerous neighborhood. If something
Yeah.
happens to her, it is tragic. It is tragic. And it is the assailant's fault, and he is the only person to blame. But as a woman, don't put yourself in that situation, because we agree that, women should be able to do whatever they want, but that doesn't mean that other people, have learned their lessons yet. And you're putting yourself in a dangerous situation. And that's the stupid behavior. You want to, yes, fight the good fight, but still act and behave intelligently and responsibly.
Yeah, that's a hard part of it. And first of all, I love the analogies, but that's a difficult part of it, is that especially in this oversensitive world that we're living in right now, it's very hard to make these comparisons because people automatically take it the wrong way. But it's also super important to do these comparisons and to learn from it and have the shock aspect right in your face, because that's the only way to learn from it. You have to look at these situations and see what went wrong on both sides. How can I, as a woman, learn from this and do better? Or what did I do in the situation contributed to it? Because I'm sorry, no matter the situation, and this is a bit digressing, but no matter the situation, you always have a hand in what happened. And you have to not only seek out blame, but also understand, okay, what did I do wrong? And that's the only way to learn from what happens to you and to do better, is to understand what actions you can take next time to avoid these kind of situations, no matter what kind of dangerous manipulative people you meet along the way. And it sounds terrible, but I think a lot of people have to hear this because that's the world we live in, and there's not much you can do about it. You have to be 10 times careful.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's important to add that sometimes if you look at the situation, you probably could have not done anything different, and then it's just bad luck. um I'm not, we're not going to talk about these cases, but sometimes if you look at it different, you could not have done anything. If you look at it, from a, with hindsight, you could not have done anything different, and then that's just terrible. But what's happening now is that Cecilia, she has said, I'm going back on Tinder, I'm still going on dates and things like that, and she said rightly that it's not Tinder's fault,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not going to impact how she behaves. And I was like, well, no, you're right. It's not Tinder's fault, but why is it not impacting the way you behave? Why are you not double checking things like that? And so, sometimes you meet someone who ends up being a huge liar, and you find out years later, and there were no signs. You could not have done anything different, or cheating, or whatever.
Yeah.
You could not have done anything different. That's fine. But often, I agree with you. You can do something different. Doesn't mean it's your fault. It just means learn from this experience. Don't expect the world to adapt to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's an important lesson that we need to learn. We love to blame the whole world and its sister. We love to try to seek out, someone who's the bad guy and someone who's evil and their fault. And I think most people don't want to face that truth. They don't want to look themselves in the mirror and and face the fact that they may not be saints in a situation, and that they also have something to learn about how they behaved in a situation.
Yeah.
And I feel like this isn't coming and saying, oh, this is your fault, this happened to you. This is not what I'm saying. I'm saying you need to learn what you did that led up to this situation. What were the steps you took, and what can you have done differently to maybe try and avoid it?
Yes.
And in general in life, this is true to anything you do in life, whether it's arguments with your partner, whether it's an accident, whether it's, I don't know, getting to the wrong place when you're trying to get to another. There's a lot of endless things like that. You can blame traffic, you can blame people in your way, you can blame psychopaths, you can blame manipulators, you can blame everyone, and yet you were also in the situation. So there's, and and you cannot control how other people react or how other people behave. You can only control how you react and how you behave.
Yeah.
So just in general, for yourself, focus on what you do and how you behave, and for the love of God, don't take out loans for anyone in this life. Like, unless you're not even, you know what, I would go as far as say, even if your mother asks you to, you don't take loans out for anyone, especially not someone you know, for just a month. And if it's someone like Levi's son, believe me, he has 10 people before you to ask for money from.
Yes, amen to that. Yeah, don't give money that you can't give freely. Like, consider that if you are lending money, then that's money you're never going to get back.
Yeah.
Just, if you are happy, if you could get it back, that's fine. But if you lend it, you need to be comfortable with the fact that you're never going to get it back. And that's how you lend money, I would say. But just to add to what you were saying about, putting yourself in situations, we have an expression in English, which is, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And it kind of reminds me of, you see these, women on TikTok, sometimes men, but not so much, of saying, oh, I keep getting in the same relationships and blah, 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 and all men are the same, or women are the same, and it's always the same situation. To them, I say, you are the common denominator.
Yeah.
I am not saying you are provoking this type of behavior. I am saying you're not choosing the right people. And
Yeah.
to these women are, but I want a guy who's exciting, or a guy who's like this and like this and like this. And anytime they go for these guys, they end up being cheated on, or these guys being irresponsible with money, or things like that. It's like you keep going from the same type of guy. It's just a different picture at the same time, but it is the same guy. And so you need to think about that and think about what you are doing. I know someone, she got, if she would be in this conversation, this isn't somebody I get along with, but if she were in this conversation, she would say, you mean to tell me that the time somebody, nearly kidnapped me in the streets of Lyon, it would have been my fault? No, it's not your fault, it's their fault. But what were you doing and where? Well, she was in the worst neighborhood, wearing high heels, a tiny skirt, in the middle of the night on her own. You get these maniacs that go to the gym and things like that, then sadly that's just the worst case scenario. You can't do anything different. But there are certain things that if it keeps, and to this woman I was telling you about, it happened to her 3 times.
Wow.
I'm just like,
that's crazy.
She was, I'm defending myself, things like that. Well, if it happens to you once, then call it, fine, you learn from it and thank God it didn't happen. But if it nearly happens to you 3 times, why do you keep repeating the behavior?
Yeah. And one of my favorite quotes by Albert Einstein, I think everyone knows it by this point, is doing the same thing and again and again and expecting different results is insanity. And again, this is where self-reflection comes in, and this is where self-awareness comes in. And it's so crucial. And I think one of the reasons why we're focusing on what these women could have done better and not specifically more on his behavior and what he did wrong is because we can help you control what you do. We can't help you control how the next Tinder Swindler is going to react. So we want you to be more self-aware and focus on what you can do to not get yourself into these situations. And yeah, if you keep finding yourself always going on all the wrong dates, always going out with all the wrong men, or always getting cheated on, or always getting conned, or whatever it is, then yes, these people are terrible and they're to blame. But you want to also look at, okay, so what can I do differently? How can I find better men? How can I get out of this vicious cycle that I find myself in? And I've been there as well. I've been going out on date after date after date, and these dates inevitably fail because I'm going out with all the wrong people, because I'm desperate to go out with someone, so I'm willing to go out with just anyone, and then you're sort of like running around your own tail. And somewhere it has to stop, because it's never going to end if you don't stop it and take a step back and change your actions. You can't change anyone else's, and that's just the way life is.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good words of wisdom to finish on.
Yeah. Yes, it was such an interesting conversation, and I hope people learn how to look at this with an open mind and take the lessons out of it, and not the criticism, with, again, air quotes, because there's no criticism here. It's just learning and developing and discussing. And I think there's no topic that should be taboo, because taboo is the way to not learn and to not improve, and it's the way to just keep repeating mistakes. I think we need to discuss these. We need to put these things on the table and be open about it, so we can also learn how to do better, and so we can prevent the next Tinder Swindler from coming and conning more women, because they know that no one will ever believe it and it's not acceptable.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Get your self-worth and make that be your priority, and everything else is just going to be seamless.
Exactly. I think that's where it all begins and ends. And if you want to learn how to do that, there's a lot of ways. We obviously can't do it all in one podcast episode, but stay tuned with us, and we'll learn together how to do that. And if you want more of that, then I guess you should also follow both of us on social media, because we both share a lot of tips and tricks and advice on how to do just that.
Exactly. I'm Alison Sarah Pym _ENG for the English speakers, and you are
Michal, Michal.Lehman. So that's Michal.Lehman. Yeah. That's it.
And we'll add all of our social media handles to the Pop Culture Cupid handle on Instagram and TikTok and everything. So just follow us on there and see what you need to find. And don't hesitate to message us, comment everything, and we'll react in the following episodes. Next week is Love is Blind.
Yeah, and we'd also love to hear from you a bit on this topic or any other topic that comes up. If you have any questions, or if you want to let us know any of your Tinder stories or Tinder Swindler stories or your thoughts on the topic, we'd love to hear them and have an open discussion with you guys.
Bye.
Bye bye.